but know it's time for the show.
Bills Mafia, welcome into your Saturday night destination for all things Buffalo Bills. This is Billsology. I am one of your hosts, DM3 Dave Myers. That is 𝐸𝐻𝐵𝐾. We are going to talk about a lot of stuff. Buffalo Bills coming off of about 48 hours removed from the Bills against the Dolphins. I've had some time to kind of sit and think and look into some stuff. But first and foremost, Rich, how's your weekend treating you, man?
Hey, Akeem Richens. We are Built in Buffalo DM3. If you don't know us by now, ladies and gentlemen, please get to know us. My weekend is good, man. My weekend is good. It's a pressure-free weekend, right? Because now we get to go into Sunday's games. Our team played Thursday. We won Thursday, and we could just sit back and watch everybody else play. So I'm feeling really good right now.
Well, let me ask you, man, what's going on with your Mets, man? What's going on with the Mets, man? They lost an 11 today to the Nationals. They're what, 8.5 games out of the wild card?
No, I believe we came into tonight's game, to this afternoon's game, a game and a half up on the last wild card spot. But the last couple of months, man, we just look like a completely different team than we looked for the first couple of months of the season. And I'm not sure if we're going to make the playoffs, but if we don't make the playoffs, that's because we don't deserve to. So we'll see what happens. I'm glad you threw that in there, though. I'm glad you threw that in there.
My Yankees are holding strong, man. I think they're up 5-0 on the Orioles right now. They're holding strong in that wild card spot. So again, if you guys didn't know, Akeem is a huge Mets fan and I'm a huge Yankees fan. So that is probably the only thing on this planet that we do not see eye to eye on, but it makes for fun banter back and forth. So like I said, top of the show, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about James Cook. We're going to talk about the Bills defense. As Akeem said, we get to sit back Sunday and just kind of watch the other two teams in the AFC East that haven't played yet. We get to watch them play tomorrow. There is some matchups in the AFC that we're going to talk about a little bit at the bottom of the show. We're going to talk about the Bills wide receivers, vertical passing game, all kinds of stuff. But Akeem, as always, as we always do, I'm going to let you pick the topic. And where do you want to start first?
Wow, that's good, man. That's a good. Let's start with the guy that got paid last. Let's get into some James Cook conversation because I looked at James Cook as an above average running back in this NFL initially, right? When we had conversations about who's the elite of the elites and if we should put James Cook there, I wasn't ready to put him in that category. I thought he was better than average, put him in that above average tier, but I wasn't ready to put him among the elites. And now, now that we're seeing him, and I think the evolution, I think, started in that Kansas City Chiefs game when he had that touchdown, right? Because that was all James Cook. We can't say great play Josh Allen or great play. That was a great individual effort by James Cook. And I think from there, it was like, okay, this guy might be one of them ones. So let's start with James Cook because now I'm thinking that he's one of the elite backs in this NFL.
Before we do that, where would you put him in the category of top backs? Is he top 5? Is he top 10? Because I think he's still not better than Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. But then after that, you can start having conversations about Jahmyr Gibbs and Josh Jacobs and stuff like that. So before we dig into a little bit of that topic, where would you put him if you're building a list right now of top running backs? Where would he fall on your list?
Now, I think you took the first two names right out of everybody's mouth, right?
Right.
You have to have Saquon Barkley there, and then you have to have Derrick Henry. After that, there's arguments to be made. You know, could you put, Jahmyr Gibbs there? Possibly. But I think there could be an argument for James Cook as well. Josh Jacobs, is he in that argument? Possibly. I think he's a workhorse back. He's He's been dominant since he's been with Green Bay. So I think those guys are the next guys to talk about. But I think James Cook has an argument to be a top 3 to 5 back in this NFL. Most people may say top 10, but I think he's a top 5 back right now.
I think the production so far, I know it's been 3 games, but the production so far, it absolutely speaks for, we talk about these players when they get paid. We talked about Ed Oliver when he got paid and he had his best season. We talk about Greg Rousseau and we're still waiting, right? But James Cook absolutely has been worth every cent that they gave him. And it kind of, it was a hot topic in the offseason about there was a lot of the Bills fan base. I think it was kind of divided about should they pay him, should they not pay him. Ray Davis is sitting right there, next man up. The Bills will draft somebody on day 2 or 3 and just kind of keep rinse, repeat, right? But I've been saying, and we've talked about it here on Billsology, like I've been saying, like, don't take away playmakers. I don't care if it's a wide receiver, tight end, or a running back. You need to surround Josh Allen with playmakers. And on the post game a couple nights ago, you brought up a good point. You talked about, is it really just Josh Allen now? Is he just making everybody around him better, or is James Cook like that guy that's like, I'm a dude, I'm going to make a play? Because it seems like whenever there's somewhat of a lull in the Bills offense, and this goes even back to last year, it seems like whenever there was a lull, they got Cook involved and he started just getting play after play, and you could see him getting into rhythm. And with Miami on Thursday, you could tell, I felt like I was just waiting for him to break. He was going to break one. I just felt like there was a couple shoestring tackles. There was stuff when he got on the outside. You're like, all right, here we go. This is that signature James Cook burst. And it never materialized for different reasons. But to me, I think if you look at James Cook's averaging 5.7 yards per touch, that speaks volumes for what he means to this offense. If you can get him involved early and you can just start churning out first down after first down after first down, I think that puts opposing defenses on their heels right away. I mean, he's already got 4 touchdowns. It looks like they are still running the James Cook on first and second down. Ray Davis gets some carries here and there, and then they bring in Ty Johnson for in the red zone ish in the 4 and 2 minute drills. So what's your thoughts so far of what you've seen from James Cook kind of carrying over from last year? I think a lot of people saw that he just barely had the 1,000 yards, but he had all the touchdowns. That was going to be an outlier, right? Like, don't pay him just based off of just the 16 touchdowns that he had last year. We need to see more consistency and things like that. But I've said there's no one else on the Bills roster in that running back room that has that breakaway play ability like James Cook. So what have you seen? How do you feel? Like, what's your outlook going forward and things like that carrying over from last year?
And I think that, when we talk about James Cook and his touchdowns last year, I think people focus too much on that as like the outlier to him, as if like if James Cook isn't scoring touchdowns, then he's not that an impactful player. And I think people confuse that because of his snap usage at last season was at about 49.2%. But this is not a guy, when he's scoring his touchdowns, this is not a guy that's just at the goal line. Is not tush push like touchdowns, right? These are touchdowns where he's going in between tackles, he's making plays. These are touchdowns where he's bouncing it outside. He's showing his dynamic ability in these runs, in these zone runs that he's so successful in running. So what I see from James Cook has been nothing short of dynamic. And I was, once again, I apologize. I apologize because he looks like a special back. He's 54.6%. Let's round that off to 55% snap share this year. That's an uptick about 5 or 6% this season compared to last. He's averaging 5 yards per carry for his career. Right? When we look at somebody tell me the league average in the NFL right now in terms of rushing, what is usually the league average? 4.2, 4.3 yards per carry is usually the league average for a running back, throughout the NFL. And he's averaging 5 yards per carry for his career. He's at 100% catch rate right now this season. Right? So every time he's had an opportunity to catch the ball a couple of years ago, we saw James Cook. He dropped the ball on a lot of occasions. I think the Dallas Cowboys game is one of those games that stick out to me where he had a touchdown and he dropped it, right? But now he's taking advantage of every opportunity, and that's in the passing game as well. And I think that confidence is a big proponent to that. 2 years later, where you're a two-time Pro Bowl player. Your peers look at you ranked 89th in the top 100. So your peers look at you as a one of the better NFL players. And I think that goes well for his confidence. And I think when you're talking about his overall play, his confidence is a big proponent to why he's having that success. And the special abilities he have, we can't ignore. Check his vision. Right, his vision on certain plays where he's able to make, where I don't think a Ray Davis would have that same type of vision to get those same type of yards that James Cook got. When we try to compare and try to act like we can just plug and play James Cook at the running back position if he wasn't getting paid, right? I don't think it's that simple anymore. I don't think that's the case. I think that James Cook is slowly becoming, in everybody's eyes, one of one, and one of those players that is one or amongst the best players at the running back position in this NFL.
I agree with you 100%. A couple things I didn't do out the gate. If you guys want to support Built in Buffalo and everything that we do, the link in the description to all of our social media platforms. Please go ahead and follow us wherever you are on social media. If you're watching us on YouTube and this is the first time watching us on YouTube, please smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. And wherever you're watching this, please drop comments. We love not just engaging with us in the chat, but when you guys engage with each other, because we like to have a platform where we can bring, tons of Bills fans together just to chat it up. So I saw a comment here. I want to ask you about this is about his yards per carry against the Ravens. Now, was anything working in that first half for the Bills against the Ravens? Besides that first drive where they went down and Allen hit Kincaid on that opening drive for the touchdown, I feel like the Ravens and what they do in the run defense was, again, first game of the season. Again, the Bills' offensive line didn't look remarkable in that game. They turned it up in the second half. But what's your thoughts on that? Is that concerning for if we have to play the Ravens again, or if we have to play a team like the Chargers, who have a really good defense, or one of these other teams that has a really good defense? What's your thoughts there?
I think it's the NFL, and I think that's going to happen. I don't think, Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry is going to have dynamic games each and every week for a 17-week season. You have those games where you get bottled up. But what I like about James Cook in that game is just like basketball players, or just like a baseball player, just like any player in any sport. When you're not hitting well or you're not shooting the ball well, can you impact the sports when you're not shooting the ball well, when you're not hitting the ball well? And I think James Cook, he still found a way to impact that game in the receiving area, right? He had that 52-yard reception. He still had over 100 yards from scrimmage. So even if he's not running between the tackles and being as effective as we are accustomed to seeing him in certain games, he still found a way to be an impact and get involved in that game and be an impact player. And that's what you want to see from your star players at the end of the day. If you're not doing well in between the tackles, are you doing something else to impact the game? And James Cook did just that.
Playmakers. Again, I say give Josh Allen as many playmakers as humanly possible. So, all right, let's kind of go in a little bit of a different direction here, because I know you wanted to talk about defense, and it's going to be a huge emphasis of the show is going to be the defensive side of the ball. So first and foremost, you want to talk about Deone Walker for a minute, because I feel like as the season's progressing, and even back in this, in the spring and through the summer, we were all kind of, like, what could this be? Like, it's a project. I feel like if he can stay healthy, maybe the Bills can kind of mold him into something. What was your takeaways from Deone Walker against Miami? Obviously, the play where Tua threw the interception. I don't know how, if you are a guard in the NFL, how you let a man that big just get by you he barely touched you, and he just blew past you with his arms up and just blew up that play. I'm not saying that's why Tua threw the interception, but it was a huge contributing factor to that play just being dead from the jump. So what's your thoughts? Give me some takeaways from what you've seen from Deion Walker so far. Oh, muted.
I do that like once a show. You would have thought that Deion Walker was the 2nd round pick and TJ Sanders was the 4th round pick. The way that Deion Walker, and that's no shade to TJ Sanders. He's still a rookie. He's still, everybody's learning curve is different. We just expect different results based on where you're drafted, right? So that's why we speak as such. But when you look at Deion Walker, man, he just looked like he belongs. He looks the part, and he's starting to flash and play the part as well. He looked explosive in the pass game, pass rush. He looked light on his feet. He looked quick. I don't think the guard realized how quick Deion Walker was at his position. And I think, it surprised my offensive lineman from Miami a bit, the way he was able to be so quick and be so agile and move on his feet. So those things are impressive from Deion Walker. He's playing like a sideline to sideline defensive tackle. And once he gains more experience, he can really be a force, an impact player in this NFL. And it's like you have to take the good part of having Deion Walker with taking the bad part with having Deion Walker. The good part of having Deion Walker is the reason we have him, in my opinion, is because he's had a bad back, and that bad back, he didn't perform like he was probably supposed to perform with Kentucky. Because if he did perform how he was supposed to perform with Kentucky, he wouldn't be in a Buffalo Bills uniform right now. So I think you have to take the good in terms of, okay, you don't want to wish injuries on anybody, but that injury is a big reason why I think he's in the Buffalo Bills uniform today. But at the same time, the bad is now that we have him, we have to manage that back, because I think that is the only thing that's going to that could prohibit Deion Walker from being a real impact player in this NFL. Is that back? Can we manage his back? Is this something where, is we going to have to worry about from year to year? Is this like a Spencer Brown thing where we can kind of fix it, and as long as we can manage it from season to season, we'll be okay? So I think that is my biggest concern for me as a fan now. Now that I see the big mold of clay that Deion Walker possibly could be, is just managing that back and managing those issues. Because if he can manage that issue, I think he can be a real force in this NFL. And if you notice during the game, watching back at the game, you notice that he was on the field at the same time as Daquan Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Daquan Jones is able to play that 1 tech, and Deion Walker's able to play that 3 tech because of his athletic ability in a 1 tech body. So I think when you can do something like that, that gives you a formidable front. And I like what I'm seeing from Deion Walker.
Yeah, I think it's really fun to see flash plays like that from a guy that you've been just kind of just oohing and on thinking, what could be, because of he was projected after the 2023 season to be a 1st round pick. And then obviously he had the back issues, in 2024, and he fell to the Bills in the 4th round. But I think that we also, like you said, we have to temper expectations, because I think they're still trying to figure out where they think he fits best. Is he going to be a 1 tech? Is he going to be a 3 tech? Is he going to replace, Daquan Jones? So, but it was really nice to see him have flashes. And I saw a couple comments come through saying that the start of the game, he didn't look great. And that's true. He even came out and said to the press afterwards, he said, look, I missed an assignment early, and it was wearing on me, and I wanted to prove, my worth on that last drive. And he went out there and he did that. So I want to talk about Terrell Bernard, because I have said to you many times before last week that we need better linebacker play. I remember specifically saying that we need better play from Bernard and Milano. Obviously, Milano didn't play. So what did you see from watching Terrell Bernard? Again, he was graded a lot higher in PFF if you like those sorts of things. Obviously, he had the game-sealing interception. I felt like he was a little bit more impactful on defense, obviously without his running mate. And a lot of his play, people don't even really think about. A lot of the play from the linebackers is predicated upon that defensive line being able to create gaps for those guys and things like that, and being able to let them have better vision on the ball carriers. So what's your thoughts on Terrell Bernard? He's the only other Bills captain not named Josh Allen. I think the franchise loves him. Brandon Beane loves him. Sean McDermott, I know, had high praise all the time. He spoke about it in his post-game media conference that, he was just making plays today, and it was great to see. So what's your thoughts on Terrell Bernard? We just paid him. Again, we talked or on the post-game, we talked about Greg Rousseau getting paid. So what's your thoughts there on Terrell Bernard? Do you think that he's trending up and he's getting back to getting his sea legs back under him and he's heading in the right direction, or what's your take there?
I love Terrell Bernard. I think he's a fine player for the Buffalo Bills. I think he's a fine linebacker. I think he's instinctive. I think he's obviously being a team captain for the Buffalo Bills. He's a leader. So I think he's one of those guys that smart, instinctive, high IQ guys that you definitely want to have on the team. I think he is an above average linebacker. I won't say he's a superstar. I think he is a tick below what I seen from him a couple of years ago. I still think he's a very good linebacker, but a couple of years ago, I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa, this guy, he can really be, and I don't think that trajectory. I just think he's a fine middle linebacker right now. And that could be reasonings behind that, right? A couple of years ago when Terrell Bernard was getting those interceptions and he was getting sacks and he was forcing fumbles, Sean McDermott was calling those plays.
I knew you were going to go there.
Sean McDermott was calling those plays at the time. And Sean McDermott, when he ran his blitz, he let his linebacker run free a little bit more. And I think that's when we saw the best of Terrell Bernard, when he was able to roam and run free and blitz and be the attacking style middle linebacker. And now with Bobby Babish, I think Bobby Babish, when he blitzes, he like to blitz DBs, cornerbacks, nickel cornerbacks, safeties. He's not too much linebackers. He will, but I don't think that is his major in terms of when he in terms of his defensive play calling when he's blitzing. And I think now it's more reactive for Terrell Bernard. And I think because of that, we're seeing, I don't want to say a drop in play, but a different style in play. And I believe that sometimes that can be predicated to sometimes why we struggle in the run game as well. So I think, it's more scheme based than player, but I still love Terrell Bernard. I think he's a heartbeat for this Buffalo Bills defense. And he made a great play last week. I'm hoping he can compound on that.
Anytime you can get a shot in on Bobby Babbage, you'll take it. I swear to God, anytime I could just
I'm just saying, man,
it was like an alley-oop. I just gave it to you and you just took it. So, so you posed the question to me. So I'm going to ask you, does defense still win championships? This was one of your topics that you sent over to me during the course of the week that you really wanted to talk. Actually, since the game on Thursday, but that you wanted to talk about. So, does defense win championships? We just watched the Philadelphia Eagles dominate the Kansas City Chiefs, like dominate. It reminded me of when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers dominated the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes had no time to throw. They had no running lanes. It was just dominant. So, again, we talk about Josh Allen. We talk about what happened week 1 where the Bills couldn't stop a nosebleed. And then Josh puts the cape on, score 16 unanswered points in the fourth quarter, and the Bills win. But is that a recipe for possible danger down the road? Because you can't fool me. It's the whole fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, or fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, where if we can't keep getting into these types of games. So it's early. It's week 3. Bills defense looked better against the Jets. They look like they made stops when they needed to Thursday. So anyways, does defense still win championships?
Absolutely. Defense indeed still wins championships. I think we saw it last year in the Super Bowl with Philadelphia. I think we've seen it in a couple of Super Bowls that you got to have players on defense to make plays to win these championships. And right now, I just don't think the Buffalo Bills. Right now, things can change throughout the course of the season. Players can play better. People can progress. Play callers can progress. Things can improve. But right now, today, 9/20/2025, I don't think the Buffalo Bills have a championship defense right now. Opponents have rushed for 468 yards throughout the first 3 games. That's last in the NFL. Opponents are averaging 6.2 yards per rush against the Buffalo Bills. That's also last in the NFL. And I have a number of different defensive statistics that I can go through that suggests that the Buffalo Bills defense right now is in my opinion not good enough to win a championship. When you look at how great the Buffalo Bills offense is, when you're playing a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, they have the players. You're not going to stop Josh Allen every time, right? Because he's just that great of a quarterback. But when you have great players, those great players eventually are going to step up and make plays, right? Do you have enough defensive players to step up and make plays to stop their offense when their defense is stopping our offense? And right now, it looks good against the Jets and it looks good against the Dolphins. But when it's time to play those teams that affect our ability to win a Lombardi trophy, can we be effective and can we show that resistance on D when we need to?
I agree with you 1,000%. And you talked about the Eagles, and I brought up the Chiefs, and everybody wants to give all the props to all these Super Bowl wins to the Chiefs. But if you go back and you look at how that defense performed down the stretch of the regular seasons, how it performed in the postseason, we've seen it firsthand. The defense seems to be better than the Bills defense, and it's able to make a play when you need one. It's able to make a stop when you need one. And that's, to me, it wasn't just how the Eagles beat the Chiefs. It was throughout the course of the season, that defense, when they needed, because they played some close games last year, the Eagles did. But when that defense needed to make a play, it would be a linebacker making a nice tackle for loss. It'd be an edge defender getting a sack or someone in the secondary coming up with a turnover. Like I look at the Bills roster on defense and I think we have some playmakers, but I haven't been impressed with Christian Benford. I haven't been impressed with Terrell Bernard. I haven't been impressed with some of these other defensive line guys. Joey Bosa flashed in one game. Ed Oliver flashed in one game, didn't play last game. But who's that guy on the Bills defense? And I'll ask you straight up, who's that guy on the Bills defense right now that can do that? It's the Bills are up by 4 and the opposing team has the ball with 2 minutes left. And it's not the Miami Dolphins and Tua turn the ball over. It's in the playoffs against the Ravens or the Chiefs or Chargers, insert whatever team you want. Who's that guy that's going to make a play on this Bills defense? I don't know who that is. It's not Greg Rousseau. Joey Bosa, that's down the road. Hopefully he can keep up his trend. But I haven't been excited other than maybe a little bit of Joey Bosa versus the Jets. But like, who's that guy? To me, who's that guy? Who do you have in that room that you can say, all right, I'm confident that we can get a stop here. I'm confident in Bobby Babich to call something here, dial something up that we can get a stop. I'm confident in Sean McDermott. What's your thoughts?
I mean, I think that we've been searching for that guy for a number of years. And I think that, when you don't have, the ability to get a Myles Garrett, or you don't have the ability to get a Micah Parsons, then you try to find ways to navigate through that and try to find, maybe even if it's a diamond in a rough, maybe even if it's a blast from the past, maybe if you're trying to rekindle something that a player once had and you're trying to get back because we never had it, and the potential still lies there. And I think that's what the Buffalo Bills been trying to do over the course of the last couple of years. We've seen it with Von Miller. We had trouble getting to the quarterback. Let's go insert Von Miller. And before his injury, for the most part, he was doing that. And of course, once that injury happened, things change. And now I think we're trying to do that with Joey Bosa. I think Joey Bosa is now trying. I think the Bills is hoping that Joey Bosa can be that guy and he can get better and he can progress throughout the course of the season and be that guy that when we need a play and we have to have a stop or we have to have a game changer, a game setter, Joey Bosa can be that guy. And I think this Thursday, this game is, I think this was a lot for Joey Bosa. He even spoke about, because I think he was hearing that the Buffalo Bills have 2 Thursday night games this season. He spoke about that Wednesday is really the first day you get your legs back under you, you know. So as far as him not being as effective, when I heard that statement, I wasn't surprised, you know, so to speak. I wasn't surprised because he's one of those players that's working his way back. He's trying to get his legs under him. He's trying to work his way back through injury throughout the course of the last couple of seasons. So to him to be on a short week, I knew it was a lot for him. But when we go on a weekly basis and we hope that when we play those teams, we hope that somebody can make those plays. The first guy I think about is Joey Bosa.
Yeah, and to be fair, I've seen a lot of comments defending Joey Bosa. I didn't say he played bad in the other games. He was so much more noticeable against the Jets. He made everything uncomfortable every time he was out there. So you asked me at the end of our post-game show Thursday night, you asked me about Greg Rousseau.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I want to ask you straight up, this is just two guys talking about Greg Rousseau. Are you disappointed in Greg Rousseau? It's only been 3 games, so I don't want to overreact too much. But he was okay against Miami. You could notice him on a few plays. But what's your thoughts on Greg Rousseau so far through week 3?
Now, I know, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and I know a lot of people think one way, and then you got certain people that try to lean the other way. Your opinion on Gregory Rousseau play this season, and me, is contingent on your overall thoughts on how he's supposed to be overall as a player. What are your expectations for Gregory Rousseau? And based on your expectations, now you could compare that to his play and come up with a solution, right? So what's my expectations coming in for Gregory Rousseau as a player this season? I am expecting, there's only 3 games in, you got 14 games left. I am expecting a breakout type season from Gregory Rousseau. What does a breakout type season look like for Gregory Rousseau? 10 plus sack season. I'm looking at Gregory Rousseau. He's been flirting with double-digit sacks. He's been an 8-sack guy. I was looking for him now to take that next step in terms of, okay, I developed more of an array of pass rush moves that now, being in my 4th year in the league, I'm ready to put on display. And I think I've refined those skills based on the number of years I've been in the league to put that on display. And thus far, I haven't seen that. And because of the expectations I have of Gregory Rousseau is why I'm disappointed with his current play. Is because I have high expectations in his ability and what he's able to do, or what I think he's able to do this season.
So let me ask you this. Do you think it's a scheme thing? Because he was here before Babich was calling plays on defense. Babich was here, but he wasn't calling the defensive plays. McDermott obviously had a hand in everything that was done, and I'm sure McDermott has had a hand in all of the draft picks. I'm not saying he's the end-all be-all, but he's in the room. So when these guys are being drafted, I'm sure there's conversations about what do you like about this guy? There's the top 30 visits, all the stuff at the combine, things like that. So is this something where they've changed? Because we've all talked about how the Bills have done, just a 180 on the defensive line, and everything's new and fresh and changing things up and bringing rookies in and signing Joey Bosa and doing this, that, and the third. Is this something to where maybe he just needs to get more integrated into the scheme of what they're trying to do now? Because to me, that contract says you need to get the quarterback. Okay, if you want to help in the run game, awesome, excellent. But to me, that contract that we just gave you, if you look at it across the league, it's like you're getting paid to get the quarterback. That's what the Bills have wanted to do since Sean McDermott's got here, and they just can't get over that hump of just 1 or 2 sacks a game. I feel like every season there's a player on the defensive line that looks really good for a small chunk of time, and we're like breakout, 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 and then it never materializes. So I don't want to go digging too deep into why Greg Rousseau hasn't produced, because of all the variables I just said, with all the new parts on that line. And, they brought in Nielsen as defensive line coach to work all these schemes and blitz packages. But is this something that could be scheme and it just needs to take time and we just need to be patient? Because that contract, to me, I don't want to be patient. I want to see results. What's your take on that? Oh, muted.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think it's scheme, right? When I'm looking at scheme, it's like, okay, is this a 4-3 defense, or you a 3-4 defense, or you a 4-3 edge rusher, or you a 3-4 linebacker? Right? Those I could see I could see the scheme differences there, but you're a 4-3 end. Not much, 4-3 based defenses is going to change much for defensive ends in terms of their responsibilities, unless they're asked to drop into coverage, right? Then it's like, okay, why is this guy, he's really rushing the pass, or why is he dropping into coverage so much?
Right.
So it's not like, it's a defense where, like a cornerback, you're playing you're a man corner and you're playing in the zone scheme. You're in the right scheme? No, you're not in the right scheme. You're a man cover corner in the zone defense, or vice versa, right? I think when it's time to go get the quarterback, do you have the ability to go get the quarterback? And right now, as much as, I think certain things is a schematic, it could be schematics. I don't think the schematics is based off the play or the lack thereof for Gregory Rousseau. I think that's more player.
Again, I guess we just have to be patient. Everybody knows how I feel. Everybody knows how I feel about that contract and Greg Rousseau. And it's not me knocking Greg Rousseau. I never have seen him as a guy who's just going to be a dominant edge defender. I just haven't. And I understand what the market is. I understand that that's the going rate for guys, and they see Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott see these players differently than we do. They see them as Brandon Beane sees him as an integral part of the core of this team going forward. He's still young, and he can still develop, I guess. But I don't know. I see, like, when Joey Bosa comes in, and we talked about it for briefly, and he just took over the Jets game. Like that, those are the same tackles that are trying to block Joey Bosa that are blocking Greg Rousseau. And Miami's offensive line is terrible. And I understand Tua gets the ball out fast. I understand. I'm not gonna gloss over the fact that Tua gets his first read out, and if the Bills aren't covering the first read the right way, he's gonna get the ball out in 2.2 seconds or whatever, and it's hard to get to him. But I'm hoping that against the Saints, we see something. We see a little bit of juice from not just him, but from some of the other edge defenders. So, all right, I'll get off my soapbox.
And it's not like he's playing. It's not like people would say he's playing horribly.
No, he's not playing bad.
He's just playing like a jag, right? He just looks like just another guy out there. He looks like just another guy. He's playing solid. He's playing solid, and my expectation from Gregory Rousseau is more than solid. I expect bigger things from Gregory Rousseau, but at some point we even got to take what our coaches say into perspective, and we got to hone in on it, right? Because what did Sean McDermott say? It was probably a few months ago or several months ago. He said, I think they were trying to talk about 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐸, but he was talking about players, their development in general, and he was like, hey, by their third season, if they don't have it by that third year, then we might have to start looking in other directions, right? And not to say Gregory Rousseau didn't have it. He has something to garner a second contract, but going into his fifth season, if we keep expecting the same things, that's not happening. how much more times, 6 seasons, 7 seasons, how much more seasons can we expect the breakout year for Gregory Rousseau? At some point, you are what you are.
I agree with you 100%. All right, let's stop talking about Greg Rousseau and the edge defenders. I will say this, and we'll kind of close out the defensive talk with this. I will say, and I said it Thursday, I said it last week, I said it a month ago, the defense is going to look different come week 8. Once Larry Ogunjobi comes back, once Michael Hoyt comes back, there's decisions that are going to have to be made with who's going to be either a game day inactive or just not on the Bills roster. Because there's just too many mouths to feed there. So I do think that there's going to be a little bit of a difference there, and that's going to support the run defense. I feel like that might add to the edge defenders kind of getting to the quarterback. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. And I've felt all along that this defensive line was going to be just a work in progress. And what I'm concerned with, and again, I'll close it with this, what I'm concerned with is what happens in January and hopefully in February when we are playing elite quarterbacks. And can we get them on the ground? And can we fluster them? And can we get them off script and things like that? That's where my concern is. I'm not concerned about playing the Jets. I'm not concerned about playing the Panthers and even the Saints coming up here, because I think that that's a team we're just going to score a whole bunch of points and they're going to make mistakes because they're not good on paper. And that's just what those teams are. So anyways.
So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, right? If now looking through 3 games, the Buffalo Bills are 3-0, obviously. And, you know, we obviously still have to see more of our team to figure out where we're strong and where we officially strong at and officially weak at, right? Strengths and weaknesses. But those thus far throughout the 3 games, and comment section, y'all can chime in on this as well. If the trade deadline was tomorrow, what position would you be looking to improve for the Buffalo Bills now that you've seen them a little bit 3 games in?
Oh, that's tough to think because I'm concerned about Tre'Davious White in the cornerback 2 position. I don't know when Max Hairston's going to be back. Mm-hmm. I'm also concerned about the safety position. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think there's much that they would do on the defensive line. I really just don't think. I think they're just going to stick to their guns there. How long is Matt Milano going to be out? We need another linebacker that can play because Dorian Williams didn't look good at all. I don't know. That's a really good question. Mm. I've been saying safety since 3 months, since July. So I know you're going to say cornerback. Am I right? You're going to say corner? Because here's the thing, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but here's
you good.
Here's the thing: there's so many variables about the cornerback position because I'm still concerned about Christian Benford's health to play a 17-game season and into the postseason. I'm concerned that Tre'Davious White's still trying to figure out what he was before his injury, and he looks pretty good sometimes, but then sometimes he gets beat. And I don't know when Hairston's coming back and if he's going to come back and then he needs another 3-4 weeks to just get back into the flow of things. He hasn't been on the practice field in forever. So I don't know. We need a good defensive line to beat some of these teams in the postseason, but we also need a really good back end, which we haven't had since Hyde and Poyer. So it's tough. I mean, I don't know. There's too many, things. There's too many intangibles that could go into what happens at the trade deadline. Like, is Taylor Rapp still healthy? Does Cole Bishop look like he's progressed? Is Max Hairston back? Is Matt Milano back? Does Greg Rousseau, has he figured things out? Is Ed Oliver back? Like, all this stuff. So I don't know. What would you think? I'll go with safety. A guy that can just, I know for a fact that the back of my defense is good. Derwin James type guy that can just roam around back there and just take care of business on the back end. To me, I don't think we have that, and I think that's been overlooked, and it's a huge part of McDermott's defense. So what about you?
I would I'm leaning cornerback right now, but I want to go defensive line.
Really?
The reason why I'm not going defensive line full throttle is because we have two players out, and I kind of want to
Yeah.
see how they would look in the fold, Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi. I want to see how they look in the defensive line fold before I go ahead all out make that decision. But just based on a couple of names that's probably could be out there, for if a Dexter Lawrence from the New York Giants was available, I would want him. I think he would improve the Buffalo Bills defensive front, right? And like I said, even the last show, I believe defensive line and the defensive back, it could be a trickle effect. One could affect the other. If you could get a better play out one, I think it can make it an uptick on the back end as well. And I think Dexter Lawrence is one of those guys, especially in run fits. I think he provides a pass rush as well. I think he's one of those guys that's able to do so. So, but right now, because I haven't seen the dynamic yet of Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi, I would lean corner just because of that.
Yeah, if you can't get to the cornerbacks, or if you can't get to the quarterback, you better be able to cover. And that's been an issue the first 3 games. If you obviously not the Ravens to an extent, but if you can't get to the quarterback and you're trying to play this morphed zone man, whatever McDermott and Babbage are doing with the DBs, you better be able to cover, because I swear I watched Tua stand in the pocket and his first read was gone. He stood there for like 6 or 7 seconds. And I'm like, can somebody do something? They can't cover Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle that long. It's just not possible. You just can't. So anyways, that's a good topic. I think we should bring that back up here next Saturday when we're going to preview the Saints game. I think that's a really good topic.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about Tyrell Shavers and Curtis Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
I know this was something in your notes that you wanted to talk about. We touched on it briefly. I kind of went on a tangent, put some stuff out there on social media about Curtis Samuel. So what's your thoughts on this comparison? Because I think it's a 3-person bubble. I think it's Tyrell Shavers, Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel bubble. And that's kind of how I laid the groundwork out when I put the video out yesterday on social media. What's your take on this whole wide receiver 5-6 battle that's happening right now?
It's in my opinion, it's everybody's going to look at the financial outlook of it, right? When you have a guy like Curtis Samuel who came to Buffalo signing a 3-year deal, $24 million, 3-year, $24 million, 8 per season. So when you have that financial investment on the bench, it has us talking about it, right? But Tyrell Shavers, he's earned his spot and he's earned his keep. He started a couple of years ago on the practice squad, and he had to continue going after it and continue getting after it. And the third time is a charm where he makes the team, and he makes the team because he does everything the right way. He made the team because he continues to take advantage of his opportunities. He's been taking advantage of his opportunities since last season. We just haven't had the room for him. And at what point are you going to continue taking advantage of your opportunities and we're going to continue shining this guy away? So I think he's, he plays various positions for the Buffalo Bills in terms of offense and special teams. And I think that's just a critical part of what the Buffalo Bills do right now. And I think, you can even bring him in blocking situations. I think he helps as a bigger body at receiver, as a run blocker in those run schemes as well. So I just think, Tyrell Shavers wearing that 14 confused me a little bit. Is that Diggs? No, that's not Diggs.
Did you see
Shavers?
He did that too. He did that.
He's like, hold on, Diggs.
When he ran out of bounds on that, I was like, whoa.
I was like, hold on,
deja vu.
I was like, yeah. So, I'm happy that, he's on the roster and he deserves a roster spot. Now, as far as Curtis Samuel is like, and I know you brought up that dynamic, but I said earlier, when I talked about earlier, a couple of weeks ago, that we was going back and forth about, does Brandon Cogrenton deserve to, does special teams only deserve a roster spot? And I'm like, well, he's a damn good special teams guy.
Yeah.
Right. And he was like, I'm not too sure if that's good enough. Is he performing well enough? Now, again, it's only 3 games, and sometimes if the motion in the ocean is flowing, right, then you want to keep it going. So the Buffalo Bills are 3-0. You probably won't want to change that. But how is he performing at his lone position as a returner? Curtis Samuel can do that as well, right? So can he get on the field that way? And if he can get on the field that way, then maybe. But right now, when I look at Curtis Samuel, even though I like some things that he does, who you taking off?
Yeah.
Who you taking off?
Exactly.
You look at the roster, the active roster the other day, the Buffalo Bills, they had 8 offensive linemen, right? 4 DEs, 4 DTs. I was trying. I was like, if I was to take off somebody, who would I take off to insert Curtis Samuel? And the answer right now is nobody. I tried Sam Franklin. But I see him making plays on special teams. So I'm like, leave him in there. So it's just a tough spot right now for Curtis Samuel. And barring injuries, the only way right now I see him possibly getting on the field.
Yeah, and in the 3 games that 𝐸𝐸 has been active, I've seen more blocking from him than I've seen from Curtis Samuel all of last year. And I think between that and he plays all 4 aspects of special teams. So to me, that's something that Curtis Samuel doesn't do. Can he return kicks and punts? I'm sure he can, and he's done it before in this league. But my thing is, you're now seeing Elijah Moore do all of the Curtis Samuel stuff, the jet sweeps and the little dump offs that he gets in space, and very 𝐦𝐨𝐫𝐞-esque, right? Like that play towards the end of the game when it was 2nd and 18, and Josh just dumped it off over the middle to Elijah Moore, and there he goes for 30 yards. Like, I'm not saying Curtis Samuel can't do that, but the Bills trusted 𝐸𝐸 on a very important 3rd down play, and he got open and made a play and made a 1st down. So I think the more the season chugs along, there's more trust that's being built with 𝐸𝐸. And you got a guy that's going to bring his lunch pail. He's going to play special teams. And if Josh is targeting him and it's successful, that's not going to go away. They're not going to stop doing that. So I don't see a path for Curtis Samuel being active. Is it frustrating that we're paying him what we're paying him to not play? Because if we cut him, it's an $8 million dead cap, and I think it's more next year. If they trade him, I'm not sure what the specifics are, but it's lost money. But either way, he's not playing. He's not active, or he's on another team. So the Bills need to figure it out. As long as, like you said, if it's not broken, don't fix it. What the Bills have with the 5 receivers right now, which they rostered 6 receivers, but then on game days you see that there's 10 DBs active. So he would have to take a spot away from one of the DBs. And with the luck that the Bills have had injury wise with DBs, I don't think it's going to change. And McDermott loves his DBs. So
unless it's 𝐾𝐿 right, like I said, unless you wanted that, to me, I see Roy Collins say switch out Eli Moore. I'm not taking out Eli Moore. Eli Moore is active on the game day roster going forward. I think he's taken over that little play package where he gets the jet sweeps now. I think Josh Allen likes to go to him. He spoke about Isaiah McKenzie a little bit. I think Elijah Moore is this souped up version of Isaiah McKenzie.
I agree. And I feel like he's going to get more and more targets. I feel like he was eased into, you saw last week against the Jets, and now you saw in a big spot in the 4th quarter, he was on the field and he made a play. And that is more than just stats to those guys in the film room and to Joe Brady and to Sean McDermott. Like, they trusted him enough to have him on the field in that spot. Now, Josh Allen has to execute, the offensive line has to block, and that stuff has to happen for that pass to get off. But still, I just, and I was a guy that was pounding the table for Curtis Samuel last year. I loved the signing. I thought that he was going to have a breakout year this year. He was going to get implemented more, but he's not active. And I said Thursday, maybe it's a trust thing. Like, we trust the guys that are actively playing and impacting the game, and there's value to what they bring, and we're just going to keep going with that. And Sean McDermott has said for a long time, I don't care how much players make. If we feel like the best 53 is going to play, or the best, the best 46 or 47 are going to play on Sundays, they're going to play no matter how much they're making. And he's proving that right now. So
So let me ask you a question. Now that we talk about Curtis Samuel, we flip to the offensive side of the ball a little bit. What's your thoughts on the offensive weapons, the receiving core that the Buffalo Bills have? Do you think that, because I've seen there's been some frustrations, I think, and I think we spoke about it some, about the lack of down the field passing, the lack of a consistent vertical threat. In my opinion, I think the Buffalo Bills have to get vertical at some point. They got to add that to their game, because I think that can come back to haunt them. And I think, the good defenses, once you don't see that, they'll get confident and start to sit on these short routes. So I want to ask you, what do you think about that offensive schematic side of Joe Brady? Do you think, or the team, do you think that is proponent of Joe Brady as a play caller, or do you think that is, once again, the lack of separation that the Buffalo Bills receivers are getting at times at their position?
Oh, that's a lot to unpack. So if you go back to last year, everybody was complaining after the Houston Texans game, excuse me, that the Bills can't get open downfield, right? We were all complaining that Josh was throwing deep passes to Mac Hollins, who couldn't win one-on-one battles. So they went out and they got Joshua Palmer. We were hoping that Keon Coleman was going to be able to be just to go up and get it, throw a deep ball, contested catch guy. They have Elijah Moore, who has speed. We just talked about Curtis Samuel, who has speed. So the guys are there. I think the guys are there that can catch deep balls. But last year they went out and Brandon Beane makes a trade, right? And who did he trade for?
Last year, Brandon Beane?
Yeah. So we were all complaining about after the Ravens loss and the Texans loss.
Amari Cooper.
Right. So the Bills bring in Amari Cooper. How many deep balls did you see thrown to Amari Cooper? Maybe one or two that I can think of against the Chiefs and against the Jets. The only two that I can think of. So Brandon Beane said, okay, we don't think we're good enough, whatever, at wide receiver for these guys getting separation downfield. But Joe Brady changed nothing, right? So we come into this year. He adds Joshua Palmer. They add Joshua Palmer to his, here's some more toys for you to play with. And they have Elijah Moore, who has speed, and there's Curtis Samuel still there, and Keon's going to, adapt and progress. I feel like when the Bills need to do it, they're going to do it. I don't think I've seen so much stuff online this week about nobody's getting open downfield. Go back and look at Josh Allen's pass chart from Next Gen Stats from Thursday. It's all intermediate. Everything is intermediate. Now, like Akeem said, that didn't work against the Chiefs. They were ready for it last year in the AFC Championship game. That wasn't working in the beginning against the Ravens. But then things changed. Josh opened up the playbook, or Brady opened up the playbook for Josh in the fourth quarter. He was hitting 20, 25-yard routes downfield. It was there. Now, I'm not saying if that was the Ravens playing prevent defense, we're not going to give up 16 points in 7 minutes or whatever that was, but I think it's there. I think it's just not what Joe Brady wants to do. He wants to control the ball. He wants to have high percentage plays for Josh to do his thing. If the play breaks down, then that's Josh playing, backyard football, and he does what he does. So what's your take? I mean, I just don't think, because we talked about it briefly on Thursday. I don't know if Joe Brady wants a deep downfield, because Brandon Beane didn't go out and go get a world-beating wide receiver. And I understand that's why there was a lot of frustration from the fan base, is that Brandon Beane didn't go get DK Metcalf. Brandon Beane didn't go draft a guy that has all-world speed and is a big body and can beat people downfield. He didn't. He went with some more. I mean, Joshua Palmer's not small, but Elijah Moore is small. Curtis Samuel was here last year. He's small. Khalil Shakir, he's small. Like they tried with Gabe Davis to be that big guy, and they tried to force feed him. Ken Dorsey and Brian Daboll both tried to force the ball to Gabe. Now, if that's the player, that's one thing, but I don't think Joe Brady wants to rely heavily on deep passing until it's time to go deep into that bag and pull it out. Do we have the horses to do it? Yes, I think we do. I think Joshua Palmer can be a good deep threat, and I think that Elijah Moore can outrun 90% of the DBs in the NFL. And it's just a matter of getting to that point. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a system. I think that
Did I take away?
Joe,
Steal your thunder?
no, not at
I'm
all, not
sorry.
at all,
I'm
not at
bad.
all. That's and excellent points there. That's excellent stuff there. Not at all. But I agree. I think that's just his system. I think that's just what Joe Brady wants to do. He wants to get the ball in space. He wants to get the ball out vertically. He wants to have the high percentage passing. He wants to have that check down. He wants to have that short pass so the skill position player can make a play after. So I just think that's just a part of what Joe Brady does as an offense. I do think where I disagree a little bit is I believe you said when he wants to pull it out, he could pull it out. I think against the Baltimore Ravens, he had no choice but to pull it out, right? I don't. I have concerns that he has that natural ability to get the ball downfield. I don't think it has to be natural. I just think he has to do it. I think he just have to have it in the bag throughout the course of the game, you know. And right now, I think overall what he wants to do is exactly what he's doing. But it's at the same time, it's like, can you be frustrated about that at times when you see what was it? What I seen the other day with the stat with next gen stats with Allen and Tua. Allen Tua combined to average 1.5 air yards per completion, the lowest mark since the next gen stats era. Allen attempted one pass over 10 air yards. Right. So when you look at when you look at stats like that, it's kind of reminiscent of the AFC game against the playoff game against the Chiefs a couple of years ago when you had that next gen stats where Josh Allen didn't attempt no passes past the line of scrimmage, and you're like, we have Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we have that cannon of an arm? Why we have that guy that can do so much special things throwing the football? Why are we subjecting him to game management role at times, right? And that can be the frustrating part. But at the same time, how much can you complain about in Joe Brady's offense? You look, they're averaging 34 points a game this season. They scored 41 points, 31 points, 30 points. In my opinion, Josh Allen's turnovers are down because of Joe Brady's scheme. I don't think Josh Allen just woke up by himself and said, "You know what? I'm
going to be more accurate.
I'm not doing this. I'm not turning the ball over." No, I think that's because of the scheme that he's in, and he's been in that scheme for some time now. And now it's kind of like it's kind of like mental training, right? Now I think it's going to help Josh Allen's ability going forward when he has a next offensive coordinator to possibly keep his turnovers down. But overall, the reason why he's having this success in terms of not turning the ball over is because of Joe Brady's scheme. The reason why, and shout out James Cook as an individual and as a player, but the reason why we're looking at him now as one of the elite of the elites is because of the scheme that's being run, and that has a lot to do with Joe Brady, right? So in Joe Brady's offense, they score 30 plus points a game. They are about 22 or 23 points, 23-4 in his tenure. You made it MVP. You now have an elite running back all under your watch. It's hard to complain about Joe Brady. it's really hard. In my opinion, I want, and I do it sometimes. But when you look at the overall grand scheme of things and what he's done and what he's accomplished and what he's done to certain players, how he's elevated good and great players to higher heights, it's like, okay, well, I mean, damn, I want Joe Brady to be better in certain situations, in certain down and distance situations, in certain points of the game when it's crucial to have it. But it's hard to just dismiss and discredit what he's done as an offensive coordinator.
I agree with you. I'm going to push back a little bit, though. Believe it or not, I'm going to push back a little bit. So you talked about the Ravens game, and you said that Joe Brady pulled out some more downfield passing because he had to.
Mhm.
So when you're down 40-25 with, I don't know, 7 minutes left, there's a sense of desperation from
Mhm.
everybody on that field, correct? On
Mm,
the losing team's side of the field, right?
mhm. Absolutely.
So yes, Josh Allen was throwing passes and he was accurate and things were like that. We're going downfield. But if it's a 0-0 game, do you want to, are you going to take those risks? Now, I understand what you're talking about with, like, we have Josh Allen, he's got a rocket launcher, right? And let it rip and things like that. Brian Daboll did that with Josh Allen. And that was, and I'm not saying anything against Josh Allen here, but that was when Josh Allen was throwing 18 interceptions because of the downfield game. Now, there was a lot of nice plays. There was a lot of nice throws. I mean, the postseason run against the Patriots and the Chiefs with the 13 seconds here, like Josh Allen was dialed in downfield. There's a ton of film you can go back and watch of how he was just electric downfield and they were dialing it up. But my point is, do you want to have Josh Allen be smart and efficient, or do you want to have Josh slinging the ball downfield because he just can and it's there? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to, I think you have to pick your spots. Like, when you need to have a shootout, I think that's when you're like, all right, let's pull these plays out and let's see what happens. Josh Allen should be good enough, strong enough, smart enough to make these plays happen. But I feel like if you're constantly calling downfield passing plays, Josh just by nature is going to force things. And I feel like the few times he made mistakes last year, he forced things. The Texans game, when he was 9 of 30, he was forcing the ball all game because nobody else on that team was making plays on offense. So I don't know. I mean, we
My
all
only
know. No, go ahead.
my only pushback to that, right? And all of a sudden, you push back, I push back. You push back, I push back. But my only pushback to that is, right, when you look at when you diagnose the Miami Dolphins game, and as much as I want to say about Bobby Babish and the Buffalo Bills defense, the Buffalo Bills defense, they got Miami off the field multiple times, and there were times in the game where I felt that it's like, okay, the good old saying is that the longer you keep a team in the game that's not supposed to be in the game, you're going to give them more confidence.
Right.
And I just felt at times where when it was up to the Buffalo Bills offense to put that game away,
Agreed.
they wasn't able to do so. And
There,
that's when it's like, okay, do you have the ability in that type of, do you have the ability to get the ball? Because not everybody's going to have a running into the kicker. Not everybody's going to
right.
quote unquote beat themselves. When you
Right.
having those type of games and when you have to go out and take it, do you have the ability to take it when you're not playing your best game that day?
I just think the biggest and I hear that 100%. I agree with you 1,000% because there was times when the Bills were playing with their food. There was times when it looked like Joe Brady was trying to get cute instead of just being just go. And we talked about it Thursday.
Mhm.
We talked about it during the game when we were in our group chat.
Mhm.
Just put the foot on the throat and
Mhm.
just end this shit
In this
already.
game. Mhm.
So I hear all of that. It's just I think, and I've seen a lot of the chats, like, not turning the ball over is a huge
It's huge. And that's Brady,
part.
man. Yeah.
That's been a huge part of the success.
Mhm.
To me, where you're coming from and where I agree with you is the Kansas City Chiefs game in the AFC Championship. There was nobody making plays except for the one James Cook touchdown run, and he was making some plays throughout the game. Nobody that Josh was throwing the ball to, I felt like this is X receiver's drive. This is where I know he can go bing, bang, boom down the field. We
Mhm.
win the game or we take the lead, whatever. And that's, to your point, that can still be said about this current roster. Now, there's a lot of football left to be played. There could be this massive breakout from Joshua Palmer. Keon could have this massive progression. I love what they're doing with Dalton Kincaid. I feel like he's starting to become
Mhm.
rookie season Dalton Kincaid.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I'm not going to put it on the players. And then on the other hand, I'm not going to put it all on Joe Brady. I feel like keep being efficient. Keep being efficient and show us that you can still score. They scored 102 points in 4 games or 3 games. Like, that's insane, right? And it's not Josh with, besides the first game, Josh with all these yards and all these touchdowns. He's on pace to do exactly what he did last year. 28 passing touchdowns, 8 to 10 rushing touchdowns, and like 4,000 yards. But if they win the same amount of games, are we going to complain? And that's why I think all the stat geeks didn't want Josh Allen to be MVP, because he wasn't putting up 350 yards and he wasn't chucking the ball downfield. And it was just dink and dunk and control and no turnovers. And that's why, to me, and I think to the AP, why he was MVP, because when there was times when he needed to take over, he did. When there was times when he just needed to be efficient, he was. You call it game management, whatever. And that's why he was MVP. So we have to see if Brady, honestly, we have to see it in January and February. We have to see if Brady's got stuff in the bag that can score when we need to, because I don't want to play. We're not going to play games like in the wild card round. Hopefully we don't have to play in the wild card round this year, but we're not going to play inferior teams that have no business being there every single season. There's going to be a team that is going to be able to pass the ball and is going to score a ton of points. And to our conversation that we just had about defense is, well, now we have to score a ton of points too. Can we do that? Or if we're playing a team that's a really good defensive team like the Baltimore Ravens, are we going to be able to score a ton of points? So again, it's 3 weeks. We'll see if anything different happens with the pass game, but that's a really good conversation. I feel like that we should probably bring that up a little bit more after we see what happens against the Saints and what the offense looks like and stuff like that, because it's interesting. You've piqued my interest with, is it the play calling aspect or is it the players? And is Joe Brady just using the cards that he's dealt with? So it's interesting, very interesting to me.
I'm wondering if, and I'm not saying he would have the inability to do it, but
does he want to?
The everybody eat mantra,
right?
A number one alpha receiver, would he complain in this offense?
Does that change because Joe Brady's gone, I think, after this year. If a different OC comes in and has a different scheme, does everybody eats go away? Because was drafting Keon Coleman and signing Joshua Palmer part of the everybody eats deal? These guys that aren't going to demand to be alphas, they're just going to come their job. So does that change when the offensive coordinator changes? Do we need a number one guy? Does the philosophy change because this guy wants to implement his system? That's a really good debate. You know what I mean?
And I think it's going to change some. I think it's,
absolutely.
Unless you're talking about straight from a Joe Brady tree, it's definitely going to change the dynamics of the offense. And of course, you're going to hear when they come in, yeah, we're going to keep some things, a lot of things that work. We're not going to change. We're going to change a few things, and then there's a totally different operation than what the last guy had. So I guess that's something that we'll worry about if and when we get there. But right now, it's just like in my opinion, the everybody eats mantra. It fits the scheme because it
is the scheme.
It is the scheme.
You look at how they rotate the running backs too. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but you look at how they rotate the running backs too. Like James Cook is not on the field in the 4-minute drill or 2-minute drill. He's not there on third downs. Is that part of the scheme? Would James Cook be would he be on the field on third down or in the final 2 minutes of the game if it's a different offensive coordinator? Like we don't know. Like Ken Dorsey used him a little bit differently, but that's something that I think a lot of people don't think about, because Joe Brady, if the Bills offense does what they did last year or something similar to what they did last year, I feel like Joe Brady is not going to say again this offseason, I'm coming back again. I have unfinished business. I feel like he's ready to be a head coach. It's time. So that means all these position players that we have, skill position players on offense, are they going to be looked at for different roles now because he's not here? And that's where the whole point of, I think a lot of fans get upset about not having an alpha number one, because no matter who you bring in, that alpha one's still going to be the alpha one. Josh Allen's got to throw to him. You know what I mean? Josh Allen's going to want to throw to him because he's the number one guy, and you wouldn't have everybody eats because everybody else is just a contributing factor to the number one receiver. So it's just definitely an interesting conversation. Is everybody eats just Joe Brady's scheme? And maybe we have to think about what that looks like in the future, but we're in the here and now. We're on to week 4. So
right.
Anything else you want to add before we get out of here? We will be back next week for Billsology Saturday to preview the Bills and Saints home game next week. 1 p.m. game. So post game will be not midnight for most of us. So that'll be nice. But anything else, Akeem, you want to add before we head out?
No, man, I think this was a great show, a lot of great talking points, and a lot of great talking points we're going to have to discuss later on future shows. So I think we hit everything on the head what we needed to tonight. Great show. Great interaction in the comment section as well. And
we get to watch football tomorrow and not be stressed out, watch the Patriots, and we can watch the Jets, and hopefully they lose. That's one thing I want to ask before we go real quick, we go.
Yep.
If both AFC East teams lose tomorrow, what's your thoughts on the AFC East? 3-game, that would be a 3-game lead on the Dolphins, a 3-game lead on the Jets, and a 2-game lead on the Patriots. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself. And everybody knows that the Bills had a 98% chance to win the AFC East on all the betting sites. So what would that mean to you?
You know what? Honestly, it wouldn't mean much to me, because we are 5-time defending AFC East champs,
right?
And now I'm
100%.
looking at it on a larger scale. Yeah, on a grander scale. It's like, okay, we up on the East. Let's get this number 1 seed. Let's try. That's the mission now. I wouldn't even have on the bulletin board. I wouldn't even have AFC East up there. I would just have the entire AFC conference there by their record. Where are we at? Let's try to lock up that number 1 seed. Let's make the Super Bowl go through Buffalo this season.
So I have some other key AFC teams. I'm not really counting the Bengals because I don't believe that Jake Browning's going to lead the Bengals to the playoffs. He might, I don't know, but they're 2-0. They play the Vikings. The Chargers, who look really good, are 2-0. They play the Broncos. The Chiefs play the Giants on Sunday Night Football, and then Monday Night Football, the Ravens and Lions. So say the Chiefs win, they're 1-2. Say the Ravens lose, they're 1-2. This AFC looks a whole heck of a lot different than a lot of people thought heading into week 4. So some things to watch tomorrow and Monday. We'll break down some of it on Saturday when we come back. But yeah, it's going to be nice tomorrow not to stress out about the Bills. The Bills had 10 days from their last game until their next game. The Saints are coming. We're going to preview it all here next week. Same time, right here on the Built in Buffalo Network, 9 o'clock every Saturday night. Hey, Rich, you want to take us out of here, man?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate everybody for tuning in to Billsology tonight, only on the Built in Buffalo Network. We appreciate the comments. We appreciate the interaction. And catch us next week on same time, same place, right here on the Built in Buffalo Network. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate y'all. Till next time, and go Bills.
Go Bills.
Let them people know it's time for the show.